Oh, look at that. This new. Oh, I like this. I don't need much. I really don't.
Daylight won't stop flashing lights. Feels like 1,000 years have gone by without you. I miss someone like you, but wanna tell you some things.
Hey, everybody, you're listening to the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Billy Z.
I'm Steve Morey.
And unfortunately, it's not 3 bears in the den. We got 2 bears. But what just invaded our den? It's a Goldilocks. Yes, we have Ms. Wendi Freeman from the Double Page Spread podcast. Wendi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I am so overjoyed. I am so grateful that you guys allow someone with my chromosomes in.
Oh, you are always welcome as a mama bear in here.
Oh.
We brought Wendi on not to pander, but because we are in the midst of International Women's Month. It was International Women's Day on March 8th, but there are celebrations that go through the month. So we're going to dedicate a little bit of time to some comic book content that we feel that we should spotlight. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite female artists, and we're also going to be talking about some of our favorite books right now that are fronted by female characters. For the rest of it, we're just going to wing it. We have a lot of new comic books to talk about. As Wendi can attest, when we get on the mic, we may end up talking about a Monkees episode from the second season in 1968, and that'll take up a whole hour and a half. So prepare for tangents on this one, okay? So how you guys doing? There's been a lot of comic news.
Yay, it's been wonderful.
Steve, do you want to talk about what you found out about today that seemed to make you very happy?
Well, it was just a surprise. I was not expecting it, but what came across announced this afternoon is that Ava DuVernay, hot off of A Wrinkle in Time, which I saw this past weekend, I really loved. It may not be super faithful to the book, and I know that critics kind of trashed it, but I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a great film for kids. But apparently DC is going to be producing a New Gods film, and she has signed on already to direct it. So I know it's still early, and obviously there's no dates on it, and there's still in the early planning stages of it. But if it does happen, which I'm hoping it does, this could be a really cool interpretation of the New Gods, because I know we're definitely going to get some Mr. Miracle and some Big Barda, but really excited about that, and I think she could do it some justice. So, yeah.
I wonder why she passed on Black Panther, but she'd say yes now for New Gods. I wonder what's changed for her in that time.
Well, this was really interesting because when Steve told me about it, I started researching about what set this off, and apparently when Wonder Woman was released, she had an interview on Canadian radio where somebody asked her who her favorite superhero was, and she said Big Barda. And that put her on a bit more of the radar for Warner's executives, knowing in terms of the masses, a fairly obscure character. So it's interesting how things happen.
Well, and you know what's interesting, and I think it's happened more and more, is that and I don't even call them really obscure characters, but let's just say less prominent and less likely to be found on a kid's pair of pajamas or bedspread. Those are the characters that seem to be doing really well. I mean, we've had the Deadpools, we've had Black Panther even. I mean, as a character front and center in sort of common sort of like the common general mindset of non-comic book readers, Black Panther's not a major character for them, for at least for a lot of people. But now more people have seen Black Panther than pretty much any other comic book movie since The Dark Knight, and even then they just bypassed The Dark Knight in terms of money made, and it's a huge hit in China. which is just really interesting. So I think, and I'm hoping that DC's kind of taking a hint about that and looking at their catalog and thinking, hey, there's some semi-obscure characters here that might actually be popular. And I know we're getting Shazam, which will be great. I never thought that would happen, but
and those
maybe
picks have looked pretty good.
They have.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. I keep thinking of Zach Levy as kind of like a geeky dude from what was that show, Chuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's looking pretty good, and obviously the padding helps. But he's got the look. He's got the hair, plenty of hair gel. So who knows? Who knows? It might be awesome.
Well, I mean, Iron Man isn't an A-level character, I mean, the fact that they started the whole Marvel universe with Iron Man is still surprising.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was talking with somebody at work today about the Marvel movies for some reason. I don't know why. They really hit the mother load in terms of casting. Let's face it. If they had gone with Tom Cruise, we wouldn't be talking about a Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point.
No.
And that's not even a dig on Cruise. It was just a convergence of opportunity and good luck and an actor born for this role. And, it just snowballed into something. And, I do agree with you, Steve, that there are some really interesting secondary characters that they probably should take a look at. Two properties that for some reason I always thought would work on film. One is the Demon.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not like that's not a character I have a particular affinity for, but, bringing in horror and Arthurian legend and that they can play it at different times, I thought that would be interesting. And given our current political climate, I think you really should look at a politicized Hawk and Dove. I know they're going to be part of Titans, but I think in terms of secondary characters, that really is something that could work. On a TV front, I always thought Suicide Squad would have been better as episodic television.
Well, they did try.
Yeah. Well,
they did try, and they started it, but...
Backdoor, yeah. But the other one, I'm sure there would be some finger wagging that it's a Quantum Leap ripoff, but Dead Man, I think, is something else that could work in episodic. Any characters that you fellas and ladies think might work on the film basis that probably aren't even being considered right now?
Well, I mean, I've always been partial to, I feel like we've been waiting for the time for a Starman show. Like ABC had that, they had the rights to that for a little while.
Yeah. But that was weird they were going to do it without the Shade as a character.
What?
Yeah.
You can't do that.
I don't see how you can do that without. To me, he's as important as Jack to the story. Yeah. So.
I agree.
And also something like he was going to be a mortician or maybe a medical examiner, and no, I don't know. They always retool these characters, and in most circumstances it probably would be terrible, but. Look what they did with iZombie and Lucifer.
Yeah, like iZombie, like when I first heard that she wasn't going to have like the ghost and the werewolf, I was like, oh, this is going to be so stupid. It's just going to be a procedural type show. But like every single week, I'm enthralled by it.
Yeah.
That is definitely one of those things. I mean, we were talking about iZombie earlier, but just in the hands that it's been placed, the showrunners obviously know how to play with the concept in a way that keeps it interesting week after week. And they've just walked into an amazing cast. So if it were somebody else other than Rose McIver as Liv, I don't know if it would work. But obviously the supporting cast itself, is just as integral to the show as everything else. But they make it work. And this is a show that I was like, no way this would work as a TV series.
Did either of you secretly watch The Christmas Prince for Rose McIver? Did you watch that?
That is my favorite Christmas show of all time. I was one of the 57 people who watched it 8,627 times.
Let me tell you, if I may go on a lady rant for a minute.
All right.
So, Netflix shamed people for watching Christmas Prince, right? Like, they made fun of people who watched Christmas Prince, and yet Bright comes out, and that's a hunk of garbage, and yet everybody comes out of the woodwork to say they watched that. Like, there's no shame in that, But it's like aimed as like a goofy woman-centric thing, like, oh, you're supposed to feel shame, but, something about a fucking orc cop. There's no shame.
Well, see, I wish it was Rose McIver as Liv in The Christmas Prince. I think that would be amazing if there was like some brains, maybe a couple murders.
Yeah, she'd eat the brains of the queen or something. Yes, that'd be fun.
Yeah. And just whip him into shape. But I think that would be a lot of fun. But it was Netflix's attempt at making a Hallmark movie, and Hallmark movies themselves are, there's something else.
But I watched them. I always watch them.
I have a neighbor at Christmas time, and that she just has that on all the time.
Well, they churn out, like, what is it? Hallmark had some, like, 40 brand new ones this year.
God, they're all the same.
Yeah, they had a new one every
same.
day. It was like the 40 Days of Christmas, and it was a new movie every
it's
night.
Like there's an unlikely pairing, and there's a business arrangement that provides the onus for these people knowing each other, and they get together, and then they're happy, but then something happens, and they split, and then by the end, at Christmas, they get back together. They're all the same.
My favorites are the ones where, like, she has to go to her magical small town and give up her busy career woman life. That's a popular one. Or the one where, like, she's so ashamed that she's not engaged that she has to, like, kidnap a man or fake a relationship. That's always a popular one.
Okay, pre-Hallmark, there's a movie. It was a TV movie in 1992. Please forgive me if I talked about this on the podcast before. It's called... what is it called? Talk amongst yourselves. I got to find the name of this.
Oh my God! No, I mean it
always star either what's Kirk Cameron's little sister.
Candace Cameron.
Candace Bure.
Right.
Candace Cameron Bure. Yeah.
or some former 90210 star.
Yes. There's always at least one or two or three or five.
I found it. Okay, so this is a movie. It's a Hallmark movie, but it predates Hallmark movies. It's from 1990, a television film called Always Remember I Love You. And it has Steven Dorff as this kid who is in this he's relatively unhappy, but it's a pretty prosperous home that he grew up in, and he finds out that he was actually adopted. So he goes out to seek his real parents, who are Patty Duke and Richard Masur, okay? Okay.
But does he pray to Santa? Does he pray to Santa to bring his parents back together?
No. But the thing is,
at some point, is there like a magical sort of like ringing of little jingle bells in the background, and then a miracle happens?
Let me tell you though,
and then a snowball fight erupts.
Patty Duke treats this shit like it was Ibsen. I mean, like, you can see everybody else. Joan Van Ark is in it. David Byrne. Like, these are the kind of people that are in TV movies, and they dial it in, She's treating this material like it's top-notch material, and it actually elevates the movie. So, if you can find it, always remember I love you.
That sounds epic.
Oh, and he actually has a biological brother, but when he comes to first of all, when he meets the biological mother and father, they don't know who he is. He's just like all of a sudden like lives in their house. He befriends his actual brother, but then the brother gets jealous and he starts hanging out with these hoods and starts smoking.
Not smoking cigarettes.
And then Joan Van Ark finds him, and but it's still a Christmas miracle at the end. But all right, comic news. Let's go back to comic news. No, get off it. We got to go back to comic news. So, Wendy, was there a piece of comic news that you enjoyed or struck?
Oh gosh, no. I feel like the big things today is like the Ava DuVernay news.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about was they had the first image of the Jim Chung Justice League that he's doing with Scott Snyder. It's the current lineup minus the two Green Lanterns, but they have Jon Stewart joining the team. They have John Jones and Hawkgirl. When you think about it, they're taking the film team lineup, they're taking the animated series team lineup, and they're taking the original comic book lineup and kind of melding them together. The only one that's really absent is Hal Jordan. He's also, at least that mantle is represented by Jon Stewart. I thought that was a pretty interesting move, and especially with Snyder, pulling things out of minor DC lore for Metal. I thought, you might have like a really weird lineup, but it seems to be, I don't want to say conventional, but I think it's going to work.
Well, it's interesting. Jon like you said, John Stewart as Green Lantern is definitely close to the Justice League United, well, not United, but Justice League Unlimited cartoon series, because he was the Green Lantern that a lot of kids that are adults now grew up on, watching TV. So Hal Jordan, at that point, I think in the comics was also kind of dead. He was the Spectre a little bit, whatever, you know.
I actually liked him as the Spectre. I
love the Spectre. But for a lot of people who are reading comics or watching TV, I should say, in like the late 90s, early 2000s, it was Jon Stewart's their Green Lantern. So. Yeah,
well, there was that dumb rumor like earlier in the week or whatever that Tom Cruise is going to play the Green Lantern, which I don't think will happen. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I was like, if it did happen, first of all, I think Jon Stewart should be the next, Green Lantern cinematically represented. I think that would be. I think that needs to be done since, like you said, like people have grown up with him. But I think Tom Cruise should be like the voice of Gnort or something. Yeah. I think Tom Cruise Kilowog or something.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That would be funny. And I think that
he's Rocket Raccoon.
It would be good. I think that he really does need to voice something, because I think you'd have a lot of fun with that. He's had fun being unrecognizable in movies before, and I think it would be a good cameo.
Make him Chip.
Yes.
That's my wish.
That would be
or Chip's
fun.
Successor, Bedig.
Bedig. Poor Chip.
That's one of my favorite names out of all the Lantern Corps. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right.
See, I always pronounced it Badge, but I don't know.
Oh, I've always put Bedig.
Maybe it's Budding. We don't know.
It might be, but if Chip is Chip, it might be Bidge. I don't know.
It's, you know what? It's pronounced Paul. Okay,
yeah,
we're all wrong.
I really don't care enough.
Tom Cruise is, doesn't matter.
Or maybe it can be Abin Sur.
Yeah.
And die quickly. All right.
Well, he does have the height to play one of the Guardians, so.
He could be Ganthet.
He wouldn't need to wear lifts. It would be perfect casting.
Oh, I got the best role for him. Mogo.
See, there you go. That would be unexpected.
That would be very unexpected.
We've already had Kurt Russell playing a planet. Why not have
All right, well, let's get to the comic books. So when we have a guest on the show, we are nothing if not gracious, and we allow our guests to go first. So, Wendy, why don't you tell us about a comic book you're reading and enjoying?
Oh, gosh. So today I read a whole bunch of books. So I had a day off, and I decided I was going to catch up on a bunch of stuff. I realized that I was behind on reading Super Sons, and since that's being canceled, I figured I ought to catch up with that, and you can get them all. I downloaded a bunch of stuff from the library. And so I read a whole lot of that, and that book is just so fun. That's such a nice, fun book. Like I love Damian Wayne. I think he's such a dick. I think he's great. So.
Yeah, it sounds like they're doing something with them, from what Tomasi has tweeted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's, because if you notice in the solicitations for June, there's no Titans, there's no Teen Titans, and there's no Supergirl. So you have a bunch of teen characters, plus the announced final issue of Super Sons. So I think they're going to do some recalibration there. Plus, Young Justice and Titans are going to be launching on that platform that DC's going to be hitting, and that's, maybe they're trying to align that with that roll-off and something.
Also, new Young Justice. I can see it. I can see them relaunching the Young Justice title.
Yeah.
And kind of throwing in
them. I really like just the two of them.
Oh, yeah.
True.
No, I do too, and I just love their relationship that Damian thinks he's training him. John can kill him 4 ways to Sunday, despite everything.
Bill, you're the one who suggested I get it, but the original Super Sons, those original Elseworld stories, where
groovy.
You had Clark Kent Jr. and Bruce Wayne Jr. and the faceless women that were their mothers. They would get into all sorts of little scrapes and ridiculous situations, like that whole one where Batman and Superman get together because they're the sons have read about this kind of like thing. They're going to go right off and save some city. And so Superman vibrates an actual city slightly out of reality and creates a new version of the city that the Sons sort of like get involved in, and there's like the mob, and they solve this crime family murder mystery thing and save this city. And then after it's done, and there's this whole thing where they fake their deaths too. But once it's done, the city just like vibrates out of existence again. And I'm like, so all those people just disappeared and died? Like, what? It's so weird and morbid. But it was the 70s, so of course, you gotta deal with it. But yeah, I mean, the interaction that those two had, those two ridiculous junior characters, I have some strange feeling that Tomasi is thinking, like, let's do that, but like make them younger and like more like extra versions of that. But I don't know. I've only read a couple issues, so I need to go catch up on it.
But I also have to say, man, I mean, Bob Haney's dialogue from them, again, the time that these were written were between 73 and I want to say like 78.
Yeah.
And whoa.
Groovy, sad sack.
It's Narsh. That's my favorite. It's one of the. It's so Narsh. Wendi, I also like this particular issue that you mentioned, and just to encapsulate what happens, Damian is attending the same school that John is going to. Mm-hmm. Damian in normal situations is just so wild. It's like, he takes a helicopter to school.
Yeah, he's so extra. He's very extra.
Yeah.
Like, I love his little motorbike. Like, I love everything about it. And I love the detailed way they draw his boot. Tomasi's work on it kind of reminds me of, what's his name? The guy who did All-Star Superman. Not Yannick Paquette. What's his name?
Quietly?
Yeah,
Was it Quietly?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Quietly in the way that he draws, like, how things are sort of baggy and sort of loose. Like, I feel like the way that their clothes fit them is really, like, I feel like there's just something special about the way that they really do just look like little kids, like the way their hoodies flap or the way things. I think he does like such a great job at that.
Yeah, I think especially in this issue, since it started with the soccer games, like you said, they look like kids who were playing soccer who got sweaty and their shirts are not like super tight. No, I understand what you're talking about. No, it's a really good book. I read 77 DC comics last week.
Well, you were snowed in, weren't you?
Yeah. But also, I get everything. Everything from the DC, basically.
Did you read the new Karina Becco and Gabriel Hardman Green Lantern? Did you read that one?
No, it wasn't in the last box. Still waiting for that. I think that came out yesterday. Was that?
Yes, yeah, I think it came out yesterday. I know it came out. I just I know I haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, I haven't been the biggest fan of the Earth One books. I thought the first one by JMS was pretty good. I thought the first Batman one by Johnson Franks was okay. Teen Titans I couldn't even get through.
Because I know that you and Bryan had read the Earth One Wonder Woman series or a book. I think for that. Yeah. It was very very unique, I think, in some of it, but I don't know. The Earth One tales. It's too. Yeah. Too much Elseworldy for me at this point.
All right. Well, Steve, you got the mic. Tell us about something you're reading.
I'm going to talk about 5 issues, or let's roll them up. One event. And this was DC's Young Animal sort of mishmash crossover event with some of the standard DC characters. So specifically Justice League of America, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And it was done in 5 parts. You had the Doom Patrol JLA issue that started, the JLA Doom Patrol issue that started it off. Yeah, because there's actually a Doom Patrol JLA version. And then of course followed up by Mother Panic and Batman. Part 3 was Shay the Changing Girl and Wonder Woman, which was a very odd issue. The Cave Carson Swamp Thing team up, which was actually
that was my favorite.
Yeah, it was great, but it was also technically the real part 1 for the series because it takes place chronologically right before the JLA Doom Patrol issue. And then, of course, they wrapped it all up with a bow with my favorite cover of the 5, the Doom Patrol Justice League.
You didn't mention Batman and Mother Panic.
I did. Is that Batman?
Oh, you did? You did say that. I'm sorry. Okay.
Very quickly, Mother Panic Batman. That one, actually, I really love the art. I like the concept of it. Jody Houser, I haven't read a lot from Houser, but the dialogue, and I think, because I haven't read Mother Panic as a series, but it's
I like her work. I like her Valiant stuff she's done, and she did a Moneypenny James Bond one shot that I liked.
Yeah, it was really interesting concept, and I felt totally lost in it because I had no idea what was going on with the Mother Panic character and her mythos. So it was just kind of stepped out of it. I accepted it for its weirdness, though. I really liked it.
My feeling with Mother Panic is the book that Batwoman thinks it is. There's a true edge to the book that I don't think you've seen with Batwoman since J.H. Williams was off yet.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'm getting my Batwoman fill from Mother Panic.
Well, that's actually pretty good. Young Animals had a very interesting first year and some change since it first launched, and I think they're using this sort of crossover event, self-contained event, to relaunch the line. And immediately after this, there's going to be 4 new series, or returning series, starting over with number 1s. But the one interesting thing I found about this, other than the fact that I really love the story, it was great. It fit together very well. Steve Orlando and Gerard Way did a great job sort of orchestrating all the various books together with their original, with the usual creative teams. But what was really cool was in the back matter. There were these little stories, 2-page, 3-page stories that were played off as flashbacks, as like comic book history flashbacks. So, 3 pages or 2 pages from an old story from Tales to a Maze, number 412 in 1963, or the Alpha Force, number 7 that relaunched, da 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 da. And it was a very creative way to introduce one of the newest characters who's getting her own book, Eternity Girl, with these short little vignettes. And each one of them was written by, let's see if I've got her here, Magdalena Visaggio, and drawn by Sonny Liu. Very unique and different styles for each one, depending on the period that the supposed excerpt was from. And of course, in perfect sort of Doom Patrol, Shaded Changing Girl, like very Young Animal style, the character that's being written becomes self-aware throughout the course of the 4 small parts that she appears in.
Did you read Kim and Kim by Mags Visaggio?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it was really good. It was very entertaining. It was about these two these two sort of like bounty hunters in the future or whatever, and one of them is trans and one of them is and they just have this friendship and this bonding, and they go on these little adventures, and it was just a fun, nice book.
Well, I'm really intrigued by what she's kind of putting forth with Eternity Girl. I mean, she at first I was kind of thinking, this is very Elemental Girl, the way that she's sort of drawn a little bit, until she started sort of solidifying in present, like in the more recent fake comic excerpts that she was appearing in. I think it's intriguing. I'm wondering how she's going to fit in. Is she going to be more of a Doom Patrol type character, so totally self-aware and meta, or more of a Shade the Changing Woman kind of character where she's just crazy and psychedelic? So could be an interesting mix of the two. Really interested in seeing how that pans out. And I think the first issue did just release this week, so I will be reading it tomorrow.
Okay. I enjoyed it, I guess. I got through it.
Beautiful splash pages in that first part. It reminded me so much of the 90s, like Morrison or Rachel Pollack run of Doom Patrol.
I thought the Wonder Woman Shade the Changing Girl issue was so creepy. That was just, the creepiness was just on, it was just on 11. I thought it was very interesting where they left the characters at the end. Mother Panic providing that this is Gotham, but I'm not sure if it's my Gotham, and it could be a major development for one of the Doom Patrol characters, and and that's not what I thought it looked like.
It's the original One Day at a Time Schneider.
Yep. But also, it's been interesting because through the various Young Animal books, Rita Farr has been a presence, and that she is, I don't want to say front and center, but I guess back and center, if that makes sense. I thought that was pretty interesting.
It was intriguing, and if I go back and read these again, I might try to see how they refer to her in contrast to Milkman Man.
Yeah. But I do think, just like the entire Young Animal line, for me the standout was Cape Carson. I think it was very apropos of how you described it, Steve, that it's sort of like part 1.1 though, as far as I see it. Yeah.
Well, it sort of sets up how the other characters kind of understand what's going on and come together for the last part. But it's just I that one in particular was so funny, and of course shout out to Funko Pops, the pop vinyl characters, because they play an interesting part in that, or at least an analog of the pop vinyl characters. So gotta collect them all.
I'm gonna stick with the DCU for the first book that I'm going to talk about. Now, this was a pricey book. It had a $9.99 price point, an 80-page giant. I can understand people foregoing it, but I want to talk about the one-shot Young Monsters in Love. Yeah, through the 80 pages, you have 10 stories, all 8 pages apiece. This was released through DC Comics as their Valentine's Day release. The cover is a total bait and switch of a classic romance motif where Frankenstein is looking at Swamp Thing making out with the bride of Frankenstein. We were made for each other, but my bride betrayed me for ... Swamp Thing? Green with envy. What actually is within the pages of this book are these really exquisite love stories involving DC supernatural characters. And there's some big names in here. You have Paul Dini, you have Brian Hitch, Steve Orlando, James Robinson, Mark Russell, which I believe is the first time he's actually hit DC characters since Prez, right? Possibly, since he's been so involved in the Hanna-Barbera stuff.
Flintstones and Prez, I guess those were his. Wait, does he do Snaggle too?
Yeah, I was just talking about. Okay. I think Prez was the only time he touched like DC proper with that, with the Catwoman backup in that special. So you have stories with Man-Bat, Solomon Grundy, Deadman, Monsieur Mala and the Brain, Demon, Frankenstein Agent of Shade, Raven, Swamp Thing, iVampire, and Creature Commandos. The Raven story will make you cry. I'm confident of that. I really thought the Solomon Grundy story, which has Superman and Superboy, the John Kent version of Superboy, as supporting characters, really, really well done. So if they have like a Comixology sale at 99 cents, grab this because there's some really exquisite stories. But it's also a book because the price point on a single issue was so high. I can totally understand people forgoing this, but it's a shame it wasn't a little lower because I think there'd be a little higher spotlight on this one. It was really good. All right, Wendy, what are you reading that you're liking?
I wanted to talk about one other book, but also I wanted to go back some news today. Did you read speaking of, we were talking about the crossovers, there are more Hanna-Barbera DC crossovers coming?
No, I didn't see that. Tell me.
Oh, so here's a great one. So Aquaman and Jabberjaw is one. Black Lightning and Hong Kong Phooey by Brian Hill, Dennis Cowan, and Bill Sienkiewicz.
I think I saw the cover art for that, or some kind of concept art for that. That's
The Flash and Speed Buggy.
Okay.
And Super Sons and Dynamite.
Okay, so they're all 70s based Hanna-Barbera characters.
Yes.
The best time for Hanna-Barbera characters.
Well, but think about because the art piece that I saw that had Hong Kong Phooey and Black Lightning, it was 1970s giant Afro Black Lightning.
Yeah.
Yes. So
yeah.
I am in for that.
Oh.
So, but that could also mean it might be 1970s Super Sons.
Uh-huh. Oh. That's good. That's
With
good.
Dynamite.
That's good, but oh man, I hate 70s Hanna-Barbera.
Really?
I grew up with it. It was awful. Jabberjaw. Like, the beginning of the 70s wasn't so bad.
What about what was the Great Race? You didn't like that?
Wacky Racers and the Perils of
Oh.
Penelope Pit Stop and
Like,
Dastardly and Motley.
Penelope,
Yeah,
stop.
those weren't so bad. Funky Phantom, the Hair Bear Bunch. Then you get like to the you get like Speed Buggy. Oh
Was
God.
Speed Buggy the one that talked like constantly? Oh God, I hated that.
Yeah, the ones that were more adventure based, I didn't mind, like Valley of the Dinosaurs and Sea Lab 2020 and whatchamacallit, Devlin, which was like sort of Evel Knievel.
I don't remember that at all.
And there was one of the goofy cartoons that wasn't so bad, Clue Club, which had the best theme song, Face to Face Another Villain, Clue Club. But oh man, I hate Jabberjaw. Oh God. Now watch, I'm gonna say this, and these are all gonna be wonderful.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
I really enjoyed. I mean, obviously that
Oh.
Batman Elmer Fudd one was great. That was really good.
I actually really enjoyed the Space Ghost Green Lantern.
Yeah, and I liked the Jonah Hex one.
That was Yosemite Sam. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was good.
But if you watch them, you'll see how bad these are. The Great Grape Ape, and
Great Babe, yeah.
Grape Ape, Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch. I mean, it was like Gleek was a relief. Gleek on Hanna-Barbera, in terms of the Hanna-Barbera created characters, he was a relief to some of the other shit you were watching. They had a spin-off of I Dream of Jeannie called Jeannie, which was, I think, either young Jeannie or Jeannie's daughter, and she had a big Jeannie friend called Babu.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Inch
I
High
remember
Private
that.
Eye. Oh, these are so bad. Oh God. Oh,
I used to watch that.
Well,
Not in the 70s, obviously, but on like a cartoon. What was it? Cartoon Station. Cartoon.
Express on
Cartoon
USA
Express
Network.
on
They
USA,
like
yep.
basically showed everything.
Yes. Oh
Um,
yeah.
You remember like the F Troop cartoon?
Oh.
That was bad. I remember in the morning I'd watch that and Plastic Man with Hula Hula.
That actually wasn't Hanna-Barbera, though they're owned by it now. There was a two animators who spun off from Hanna-Barbera and started their own company called Ruby Spears.
Oh, yeah.
Ruby
They also
Spears,
did Fang Face. You know, these people were like in these focus group meetings, like, what do you think of the name Fang Face?
And these kids are like, I don't have anything
I
cool
don't
to
know,
play
it's
with. Just
good.
the cool Barbies and G.I. Joes haven't been invented yet. So yeah, it's fine.
Oh. And Captain Caveman, that was so goddamn annoying. Oh. Oh, all right. I have to get off this now. Okay.
So,
But thank you for that bit of news.
today, the final issue of Slots came out, the Dan Panosian comic from Image.
Mm-hmm.
So I read all 6 of those together today, and it's completely right up my alley, like nobody's business.
Yeah, what's
It's
it
the story of
about?
it's about this washed up boxer. This guy's just like this washed up, down on his luck kind of dude who like owes a bunch of money and had to run out on his child, like all this stuff. But he has to come back to Vegas, and he has to save like his ex-wife's casino by fighting his son, who's a young MMA fighter. And so he has to like pull this con, this like elaborate con on like this other casino owner guy so that he can save his ex-wife's casino. And it's pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
I actually haven't. I had not seen that at all. But I've been so bad with my Image books lately. There's so many great series that are coming out, and I'm just completely missing them.
Talk about a publisher that's made stuff pretty open to us.
I know. I know.
Oh, but they
I'm
don't
so
know.
behind.
They don't know that. Just
so
like they don't
behind.
know we talked before the show.
so behind.
Well, if you are behind, tell us about something you are caught up with, Steve. So what's something you're reading?
Well, I've been catching up with Dark Horse's Wonderful World of Black Hammer.
Okay.
Which Black Hammer, Jeff Lemire's sort of reimagining of basically the entire world of superheroes and supervillains. In Black Hammer itself, in the main series, a group of superheroes are stuck in this sort of limbo farm town where they don't have powers. Well, not really. And they're forced to live sort of normal lives, and the rest of the outside world doesn't realize that they're still around. The recent Sherlock Frankenstein series, that mini 4-issue mini, was absolutely amazing because they don't really shy away from the goofiness of some characters. There's a lot of Silver Age sort of creation that's going into some of these characters. Cthulhu, of course, is a personal favorite of mine. He's a plumber who was basically taken over by Cthulhu and still wears his union suit and just has Cthulhu's head. And is still kind of like, a dude who lives with his wife who walks around screaming at him with curlers, and they have a small daughter who has Cthulhu's head as well, but wears bows in her hair. But anyway, that was such an amazing book, an amazing series with the daughter of the Black Hammer actually, visiting these former supervillains to find out what, if any, anything that they had to do with the disappearance of her dad and several other superheroes. And of course, it introduces her to Sherlock Frankenstein, who doesn't really show up until the last issue, and really paints an amazing picture in just 32 pages of this really complex character that Lemire and company have created. So just this week, they've released the next start of the series of mini-series introducing these characters is Dr. Star and the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows. It's Lemire with Max Fiumara on art duties. And with the team here, it's almost looking like a Magnolia-verse kind of team. Seeing a lot of the same artists, a lot of the same staff working with this and creating this really cool universe. And Dr. Star, of course, semi-tragic backstory about a scientist who discovers para-energy in a para-dimension in the 40s, and sort of his personal journey, becoming a superhero and the impact it has on his family. So those of you who have been listening for a while know that I love Astro City. And the world of Black Hammer that Lemire and company are creating here is similar to that, where there's a lot of emotion from the perspective of the superheroes themselves and the supervillains, but there's a lot of personal development that happens, and the superpowers and the battles around that are almost superfluous. Just on the outside fringes of the actual true story. So I really recommend it, Dr. Star and Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows, and pretty much anything that's going on with Black Hammer. So you don't have to have read the main series to get into these side stories and minis, but it does help to kind of understand the context of where these characters are coming in.
Okay, cool. I am so far behind on Black Hammer. Oh God, it's almost a short box at this point.
Well, I mean, there's so many little side mini series and one.
And now they're coming out like 2 books a month now.
Oh yeah,
so.
Yeah. It's very much like the Magnoliverse books, where there's just several minis going on at the same time that all kind of tie together into the greater whole. So it's pretty cool. I definitely recommend it.
Okay. Well, the book that I'm going to talk about now is not a DC book. I did have some time dedicated to reading independent books, and I'm going to talk about Armstrong and the Vault of Spirits from Valiant. It's a one-shot. It's written by Fred Van Lente with art by Cafu and by Derek Robertson. They kind of like tag team on the pages. And in this one-shot, you have Armstrong, who is one of the immortal brothers of the Valiant Universe, along with Eternal Warrior and Ivar. And he is going to have a celebration because he has a hidden vault of wine in the meatpacking district in New York, which he bought like in the 1600s, and he's invited some of his friends over, and those friends include Quantum and Woody, Archer naturally, Faith, and Punk Mambo. Okay. Doesn't exactly go according to plan because there are a series of villains that are gathered under one unifying force that are basically going to invade and cause havoc. And it actually ties into one of Aram's earlier adventures. Again, Aram is Armstrong, regarding a biblical figure who is known for an ark. Let's put it that way. It was a really streamlined story. You know, it was a lot of fun, but also through the story we do have that thread of the brothers, and one of them, at least in the current form of the Valiant Universe, is no longer with us. At the end, it's a fairly touching coda. I know you folks both read Valiant. Did you guys read this by any chance?
I did read it.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things with Archer and Armstrong books is that, when Rafer Roberts was writing the last series, there's a willingness, and even with Van Lente, there's a willingness to embrace the goofy.
Yes. Yeah.
Sort of like the absurd that comes out of this. And, there's a lot of serious stuff that tend to happen in these books. But here in this one, of course, the shadowy figure that's bringing all the other villains together. There's what I thought was a pretty ridiculous and goofy sort of denouement to that, which is great. I don't know. I like how they really do embrace the humor with the Archer and Armstrong books, no matter what's going on in the other part of the story. So,
and it really makes me miss it as an ongoing.
Yeah.
Something brewing at some point soon.
Yeah, this week I read I read a bunch of Valiant stuff this week. One of the things I read Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Steve has talked about this before.
Yeah, and that had a little bit of Archer and Armstrong in it. Not enough, but I'm trying to figure out. So that comic is supposed to be the prelude to like a live action web series where they're trying to introduce all these characters.
Well, it's not even a prelude. It's supposed to basically be the adaptation of what the web series is going to be. So the web series is going to basically be what we're reading as the comic.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that writer. I've got Elliot Ray Hall coming on my show on Monday, so I figured I'd better bone up and talk to him. And then also I've been reading Christos Gage's Ninjak or Ninja K, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading that, and I love it to death because it's very James Bond. It's very super spy, but I love anything where it's like spy and ninja. You can be both. Get you a man who can do both. So.
Well, Wendy, I have to say, I have been resisting reading Ninjak forever. And I just got into it with this latest series that started just a couple months ago, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I never wanted to read Ninjak just because I was like, it's just for the same reason you like it. It's just James Bond who's a ninja. How lame is that?
I find it's like you're combining the idea of like MI6 in a world with superheroes. Like, to me, that doesn't quite gel.
Exactly, but this book is so good. I love how they're going through. They explain why he's Ninjak or Ninja K. That there was a ninja. A through J, I guess, before him, and he's kind of going sort of traipsing through the history of this, and they're just writing the history as they go, which is pretty cool. I like that.
And it also sets it up where, like, I want to hear backstories. I want to hear about Ninja C. I want to hear about Ninja J. Or I want to hear about, like, all these previous ninja characters, Like, they've had all through history, like, in different wars and all that stuff. Like, it's like the Iron Fists. Like, I love hearing about all the different Iron Fists. Any sort of, like, legacy character. I think you can do so much because you can do all these flashbacks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that somehow he's still around in 4001 AD, but... So I guess, is there going to be a ninja L through Z? Who knows?
I don't know. And then also there's Valiant High, which is like the goofy teen version of the characters, which is cute, you know?
I want to hear some ninjas.
That is the soundtrack album that they are putting out. It's a concept.
Don't punch me in my ninja. Put some coins in the ninja.
We're just gonna ninja him out.
Yeah. The French ninja is known as ninja. I'm stopping right now because it's not even funny. It's not even
Although
funny.
you know the Mexican ninjak is ninyak.
All right. Any other books you people want to talk about?
No, I think
No,
that's...
you guys are good. I think
we're
we
good.
gave some very good recommendations for anyone listening. Okay, going back to what I said at the beginning of the program, again, we are celebrating International Women's Month. And Wendi, in our IMs today, brought up about spotlighting some female artists. I have to say, it's nice that there's a number of choices. I don't know other times in history if that would have been the case, where you would find women working in comics and have an abundance of excellent talent that you could talk about right now. So Wendi, why don't you tell us about a female artist that you were really digging?
I'm going with Joelle Jones because
Okay.
I love Lady Killer. I feel like Lady Killer is stylish and yet also really messy. Her style is very like inky but cool, you know, and I love that. And I feel like Batman, she's killing it with the Batman. You know, I love the way she draws Catwoman. I think she's just very like sexy and suave.
She has, at this point, I think, offered up some iconic covers, particularly Mockingbird. Yeah, no, she's definitely a very big talent. What was I'm trying to think of, like, the first thing that I remember her on, and it may have been the Supergirl being super.
Oh, yeah.
It was another Elseworlds of Supergirl that if it was like more akin to reality. She's very talented. Like her stuff a lot. You like her stuff there, Steve?
I'm just actually going through and looking through, some of her portfolio, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was her, that she drew this and then she drew that, and apparently, there's some really cool stuff that they have here. A lot of great covers, really beautiful covers that she's got. So yeah, I could pick up some more stuff from her.
All right, cool. Since you have the mic, God, I'm such a cliche. Why don't you just tell us, Steve, about a female artist that you want to talk about?
Well, I was going to talk about Erica Henderson because I know that one of our guests really, really loves Erica Henderson.
Bar fight.
Bar fight. But I'm not. Even though I do really enjoy her work, and she's a lot of fun to see, and also at cons if you ever have a chance to go up and say hi because she's just a great person. I'm going to talk about Paulina Ganucheau, who is someone that I discovered through Zodiac Star Force, which was a recent comic series a couple of years ago. There's actually been 2 series by Kevin Panetta, and she's Maryland-based, so I'm guessing that's kind of how they got together for this book. But she just has a really fun style that is reminiscent of, I'd say, kind of like 90s cartoons mixed with a little bit of an anime style. So it's very bubbly and colorful and just really exciting. So you can see her work in, Zodiac Star Force. She was in one of my recent favorites, Another Castle by Andrew Wheeler. And she also does a lot of other, interesting spots, and has done some work with basically every comic studio out there, a lot of independent work. Not so much with the big 2 just yet, but I think she is going to be doing a lot more. So you can start looking out for her stuff. She also does come to Heroes Con, so I will definitely be seeing her and buying yet another thing from her at the next show. So Paulina Ganucheau.
Okay. Man, that stuff is so in your wheelhouse, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zodiac Star Force looked cool. I didn't get to read it, but I would certainly read it if it was handy.
She is one of the. She's actually the co-creator for that. I mean, she helped design the characters and help plot. So it's just the two of them together on this book. Just it's perfect synergy.
All right, nice. Well, I'm going to be talking about a female artist that has been a presence in comic books for a long time. And one of my favorite female artists is Ramona Fradon. She is 91 years old and she's still active on the convention circuit. She certainly makes it every year to Baltimore Comic Con, and she's usually at a few others. She began drawing comics in the late 1940s, and she left comics in 1965 to raise her daughter. She is probably best known as the co-creator of Metamorpho with the aforementioned Bob Haney of Super Sons fame. She was a longtime artist on Aquaman, but my favorite stuff was when she returned to comics in the late 70s, where she took over the art duties fairly early on for the comic book that was based on the Super Friends TV series. Within the Super Friends comic book series, she had the opportunity to draw characters that were not part of the animated series. Some strange ones too, like the Demon and Black Orchid. She has this very deliberately cartoony style, but for a book like Super Friends, she was the ideal artist at that time. And she's also a pretty good costume designer. If you look at the Global Guardians, those are all her designs. Fire, Ice, Jack-o'-lantern, Owl Woman. There's a few duds here and there, just like the characters are from the Global Guardians. Dr. Mist, I think, is a wonderful character design, and that's all her. Reading about the backstory, the writer, E. Nelson Bridwell, just let her run with the character designs, gave her very few notes. And the designs that you see that she provided for Fire and Ice, they may have been hyper-sexed up over the years, but they're still basically the same. If you're unfamiliar with her work, I certainly hope you would check out. Apart from comics, she also left comic books for a time. For 15 years, she was the artist on the Brenda Star Reporter comic strip series. So that's a female artist that I want to throw my spotlight on.
That's awesome. She's an excellent choice.
And her style is very. I'm looking at some of her work right now. I mean, it's very much what I associate with 60s, 70s house style. Like some of these designs, some of these characters, the way she draws them are exactly how I picture comics, especially DC Comics at that time. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and you also think of Metamorpho and how weird some of the characterizations were, like Simon Stagg and Java. I just think she's an immense talent. Like I said, if people are unfamiliar with her work, get familiar, because it's some really good stuff.
I said, I feel like once you've seen it, like you said, like nobody is unfamiliar with it. Like she's such a undercurrent of what comics of that time is, you know? Yeah. Like if you're unfamiliar with the work, you look at it and you remember that you're familiar with your work.
It's like Ditko. It's like even if you don't know, even if you don't know the name, but you can see the visualization, you're like, oh, okay, that's his work. I know that. It's almost that distinctive. All right, well, we're going to move on to what we normally would call the woofs of the week, but I don't know what the hell we'll call it. But we did want to spend a little bit of time giving hat tips to books that are out on the market right now, which are led by female characters. Let's go back to Wendi. Wendi, why don't you give us a title that you think people may enjoy that fits in that bucket?
Well, I just read Vampironica #1, which is, part of the Archie horror line. And it's, Veronica, she's a vampire and she's hunting other vampires. So this first issue is kind of setting that up. And it was, and it's done by Greg Smallwood and his wife, Megan. So she's helping write it. And he was doing Moon Knight for a while that I liked him on.
Mm-hmm.
So, once again, all those Archie horror books really knock it out of the park for me. Like the Jughead werewolf one.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Afterlife with Archie. The Sabrina one is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a shame that the publishing schedule for them has been so limited because at least the Jughead the Hunger is coming out on time. I'm behind on it, but at least we got that.
Yeah. So hopefully Vampironica will be on time.
Okay, cool. Going over to Steve. Steve, tell us about a female-fronted book you dig.
Well, one of my favorites, of course, and I've talked about it before, but All New Wolverine, which it does make me sad that it is ending with issue number 35. Tom Taylor is retiring from the series. Now, it's not to say that they're not going to have another book. In fact, I think they've just announced X-23. So it will be a new creative team on it, but we'll still have Laura as X-23, or all new Wolverine to me. But just this book is great because they really put Laura front and center, but also they've introduced some great characters. I mean, Tom Taylor has with usually a throwaway kind of plot device in the first part of the series was a bunch of clones, and they ended up keeping one of the clones, and she's become one of my favorite characters, Honey Badger, little Gabby, with her pet Wolverine, Jonathan, the real Wolverine. But and her friendship with Deadpool, which was a recent issue, I think issue 31. But it's just it's such a great book. The action never disappoints, and she, Laura as a character is just so. She's stern, she's stoic, but Taylor never writes her in a way that she's completely unrelatable. Where she's so completely standoffish that she's just sort of like, whatever. And I think that's kind of what made a lot of people relate to the original Wolverine back in the 80s and early 90s with his own series, is that although it had a lot of ups and downs, they really kind of humanized him in those in his own series, which I think in this case they really humanized Laura by making her front and center and sort of showing a lot of her history and how it's affected her, but also now going back and having her face how it's affected other people, because she was used as a assassination weapon for such a long time. That the whole recent storyline of the Orphans of X, really kind of adds to her and adds to her character, but also shows her evolution of how Tom Taylor's been writing her for the past couple of years. And sad to see the book end. Hopefully the new X-23 series does a good job with her, but I'll be following along.
Okay, the book that I'm going to be talking about is, again, if people don't know, Wendi is from the Windy City of Chicago. It's one of the creators in her orbit. And the female-fronted book I'm going to be talking about, there finally is an ongoing series featuring Athena Voltaire from
Yay!
Steve Bryan. The first arc is called Athena Voltaire and the Sorcerer Pope. If you are unfamiliar with Athena Voltaire, she is a mid-1930s aviatrix. The best quote I've ever heard about Athena Voltaire came from Warren Ellis when he said, "What if the mummy was good?"
I always think of it as like Rocketeer crossed with Tomb Raider or something.
Oh, yeah. If you are at all inclined to dig stuff like Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Rocketeer, those 30s period pieces, Doc Savage with Amelia Earhart's backstory or something, there's
That's
a lot of really fun stuff. In a just and right world, Steve would be on an ongoing Blackhawk series that I would be co-writing. But we do have Athena Voltaire from the great people at Action Lab. And with this particular issue, I love this starting point because it combined elements from previous stories. So you have a lot of characters that Athena has come across in the past, like Mr. X and Desmond. But at the same token, there's a sense of propulsion to the story that they're a bit ancillary, not necessarily to the storyline, but in terms of your knowing anything previously about these characters, it really doesn't matter. It's a very well-structured first issue. So that's the one I am going to spotlight here, Athena Voltaire #1 from Action Lab. Again, stories and lettering by Steve Bryan. I assume this is going to be the regular artist unless it's done in arcs. Pencils and inks by Ismael Canales. And let me tell you, I really thought this was Steve's art because it's so close to his style. Just a great 20-odd pages of adventure and some really nice sketchbook pages in the back. Loved it. Athena Voltaire and the Sorcerer Pope. That's my pick.
Yeah, I want to say, is that Athena Voltaire prose book? Wasn't there like a short story book coming out or something?
Yeah, I did order the prose book. I'm not sure if that's come out.
I don't think it's come out yet, but I look forward to it.
I definitely, because it's one of those characters that would work so well in that pulp style. Absolutely, yeah. With Athena Voltaire, we haven't really hit World War II yet, though the Nazis are the principal adversary. Correct me if I'm wrong, like, I believe this is all still like 36, 37, but I just think there's so many different ways you can attack that character that would be so worthwhile. I love the character. And when we had Steve on the show, in my mind, it's Rosalind Russell. Dresses that like this, I just love the character, and I'm just so glad that he has this ongoing happening now. And also great to mention that it is bannered as a Nazi punching first issue.
That's what I was going to mention. I just saw the cover for the first issue, and it's just that's the tagline right at the top: Nazi punching.
It's okay to punch a Nazi. It really is. Even a sucker punch.
There shouldn't be.
They're Nazis. Come on. So when we wrap up an episode of the Comic Book Bears, we wrap it up with a final segment that we call the Woofs of the Week segment, where we spotlight something, be it a comic book or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, might be interested in sampling. So we, as I said before, are nothing if not gracious to our guests. Wendy, what is your Woof of the Week?
Yay, my Wendy Wolf.
Wendy Woof!
Yay! Ow! So, the Wendy Wolf. I just saw the other night. I went to go see the film Annihilation.
Oh, okay.
And this ties in with the Ladies' Month. It's this like slow burn sci-fi movie about this team of female scientists, and it's like Natalie Portman and Jennifer Jason Leigh and that girl who's Jane the Virgin and like somebody else. And, like, they have to go investigate this sort of, like, weird alien-type occurrence. And the whole movie, it just moves, like, at this sort of glacial, like, surreal, dreamlike kind of pace with, like, these crazy visuals and this whole thing. And it has a very surprising ending. And Oscar Isaac is in it. Oscar Isaac is like Natalie Portman's husband, and she's like a biologist or a physicist or something. And so she agrees to do this to try to help him save his life. And it's very good. It was a really, really good movie. And so there are problems with it. It's directed by the guy who did Ex Machina by Alex Garland. Did you guys see that?
Oh yeah.
No, I haven't. I've had it on the DVR for like 2 years.
That movie, it was such a very quiet. It kind of strikes me if you're talking about Annihilation being a slow burn, so was this one.
Yes.
Where it was very intimate. There were really only 3 people in the entire film. Mm-hmm. But that was if it's the same director.
Yeah, it's very much like that. And it's just very sort of a weird, creepy kind of film. So, so for some reason it didn't get cinematic release in overseas. So America, we get it in the theaters, but every place else gets it on Netflix. So they have it on Netflix right now. So I urge you to watch that right now, European listeners.
We have a couple. Okay, Steve, what is your Woof of the Week?
Well, like usual, I watch way too much TV. But I will mention one that isn't really the kind of show that I normally watch. It is CW though, so I guess that kind of falls into like the category of what I usually spend all my time watching. But it's a new series just started called Life Sentence, and it is
glowing.
It is hard for me to describe. Like, I really, really love the pilot. It just started, so it's it's really only like one or two episodes in. But I really like the pilot. It made me smile. I teared up. I had reactions to it. And I think because it kind of takes the whole sick girl with cancer and family trying to be supportive and all their personal dramas, and reverses it, because it starts with her hearing that she's cured of cancer. And in revealing that she's no longer sick and she's been, basically dying for the past 7 years, everything about her support system, all, her husband, her parents, her brother and sister, she realizes that everything that they've been doing for the past 7 years has basically been putting on a front to help keep her positive and, getting to enjoy her life as if every day were her last, kind of thing. And the real tagline of this series is live every day. I think it was something like she mentions it towards the end. It's, I've got to live every day like it is the first day of the rest of my life because now I'm not dying. But there's a lot of humor into it. So there's, obviously it's very dramatic, but at the same time there's a good amount of humor with what all these people in her life have been kind of hiding from her as it all falls apart. Like her mother's bi, her dad's broke, her brother's a complete, man-child who gets super high a lot and sleeps with other people's wives. And her husband has apparently not farted in front of her for the entire time that they've been married, which was just a throwaway line, but it was very hilarious. But anyway, yeah, I recommend it. Life Sentence, feel warm and fuzzy.
That's a great concept, though. That's a great concept.
So
Yeah.
do you think it'll eventually become a standard CW show with a 22-year-old running a multinational corporation and and at least one character every 3 weeks saying, "I thought you were my friend"?
I don't think so,
Okay.
and I think that the reason why is
And lots of time in the hospital.
Oh, there's plenty of time in the hospital. That
Okay,
one
we
is
got
just-
that. We got that one checked off. Okay.
Yeah, but that's just because one, she's a former cancer patient, and two, she spent most of her life in the hospital at this point, so it factors in. But I think the no multinational corporation running, she gets a job in the first episode and loses it within about 15 minutes because she has never worked a day in her life and she's terrible at it. So.
Okay.
It's,
My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, is that a CW show?
yeah, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is brilliant.
Yeah. People rave about that show, and I've just never gotten to it yet.
Yeah,
The music is amazing. Actually, what you should do after this is Google a fuck ton of cats, which was one of the songs from this past season. When they aired it on TV, they overdubbed them and said buttload of cats. So the song was buttload of cats. But watch the original video. They have it on YouTube for fuck ton of cats. It's got puppets. It's brilliant.
I heard the one about my tits are too big. I heard that one.
Oh, I've got big boobs. The big boobs one is great.
Yes, whatever it is, that one.
Heavy boobs. It was heavy boobs.
Because I related to that. Yes.
Yes, but definitely fuck ton of cats is absolutely hilarious. Definitely watch it.
Okay. Well, for my woof of the week, I could have sworn I sent this woof out previously, but according to my notes, I never did. I'm throwing my woof out to a fellow podcast, Southern Fried Geekery. And that's Wendi applauding. Our friend Caleb Alexander McKenzie, who has become part of the 11 O'Clock Comics former forum, now Facebook page Orbit. He's become a very cool presence for me online. And I got a shout out, and our show got a shout out on his own show a couple weeks ago. And I could have sworn I returned the favor, and I didn't. So I'm very sorry about that. But listen to this podcast. It's 3 guys from Arkansas who have amazing insights and knowledge. I mean, I forget out of his co-hosts whether it's I know one guy's Sean and the other guy's Craig. One of them is one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever heard about anime and manga. I've really enjoyed the 10 episodes that have been released so far. And Wendi, you're going to get to meet Caleb in a couple weeks.
I am so excited. Hello, Caleb.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love them. I love them, and I'm telling you, I following Caleb on Instagram and stuff, like, he is one of the most observant people that I ever, like, he always just pinpoints things about specific panels and specific art. Like, he makes comics fun.
Yeah. I'm, you know, I
I just
knew.
wanted to sing that like Fleetwood Mac to him.
You make comics fun. See, we could have done that. We could have done that if I was going to C2E2. I could have been Lindsay. You could have been Christine. Oh,
My mother always made me be Christine when we'd sing in the car together. I never got to be Stevie.
Stevie.
It was terrible. She
well,
was
honey,
always-
you'd be standing next to a gay man. I'd be Stevie too. So.
always the Christine and never the Stevie. That's the core of my life.
Okay.
I honestly have never heard that phrase, but I instantly knew exactly what you meant.
That's because I just made it up. I hope that catches on.
Okay, so if you want to find Southern Fried Geekery, you can find them on Libsyn and also on Stitcher Radio, and they have a Facebook page, and I'll post those links within the show notes. Well, I'm very happy, sort of sad, though, that we didn't go all tangent-y. I thought we would...
We went off that Hallmark movie.
At some point,
Oh,
yeah. But at
Yeah.
some point, I thought we were just going to go off the rails, and, I don't know, it was going to be a discussion of, what Gallagher brother from Oasis you find less repulsive, or, recipes
Noel's
or
really
something.
wicked. I think, did you see that charming video of Noel with like the school children? That was
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I actually saw that.
Yeah, and I loved that Oasis documentary, so I am Team Noel.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm proud of us, but at the same time ashamed. That's all I can say. So if you
Well-
want to hit a tangent, let's do it now before we go.
Well, I mean, clearly what we have to do is just stop here, delete the entire episode, and start over.
No, we're not doing that. I'm the one who has to edit this shit. I can tell you we're not doing that.
Edit. Don't bother editing this. Just go
Oh.
ahead and post.
Oh God, I'm so happy to talk to you. Before we started, Steve and I were talking. It happened with both of us at 8:15. We hit the wall, and we were just tired and oh, why are we doing this? And as soon as Wendy came on, we perked up. So thank you for that, Wendy. Really,
I'm so happy. You
Love
guys are
having you on.
both. I love you guys so much, and I love everything. I love everything bear related. You guys are the best.
We're cuddly. What can we say?
I want to hug you.
okay. Now, as we're recording, I'm watching my partner Robert making these hand gestures that were yappy, and and we are. It's a podcast. What the hell? We talk. You want to? Oh my God! Did my New Jersey just come out there? Did you hear that? We talk.
Yappy.
Oh,
What? You
Oh.
talk too much, you yappy.
It's just so bad. I like to think I'm accent free, and it comes out at the damnedest times. It really does.
My brother tells me I sound like a Chicagoan, and I have no idea what that sounds like.
Why? You're gonna meet somebody in an alley with a bag of vipers?
What?
No idea what that sounds like.
Oh, God.
I mean, I grew up in the backwoods of Pennsylvania, so.
When unfortunately Wendy couldn't go see the Posies with me when I was working in Chicago for the last few months, and the guy that introduced the Posies who was I guess a citywide regular, oh my God, he had the most extreme Chicago accent I have ever heard. It was, oh my God, it was.
And you saw them with a coworker that I dislike.
Oh, she
them
was
that night.
terrible too. Oh, here we go dishing. Oh, this was what. Okay, so this was what where my mind goes to Stevie Nicks. I have a very funny Stevie Nicks story that doesn't really involve Stevie Nicks.
Please do tell.
And I haven't thought about this in years, but when I said you're by a gay man, of course I'm going to be Stevie. So I'm not going to say who because this might get back to them. But I had a friend growing up who had an older brother. We were, I want to say 12 or 13 at the time. Now, most houses where I grew up in New Jersey have basements. The way that a lot of the, whether they were split level or they were ranch with basements, there was a high window that you could peer into the basement, and most people turn them into rec rooms or whatever. It was just a design that was prevalent. And, Wendy, I know you spent some time on Long Island. This isn't too
Yeah.
different from Levittown. Like, if you saw the designs of the house, you know immediately. So I don't know what we're doing. I guess playing, it's 12 years old. I guess we're still playing outside. And Steve, oh shit, I can't say okay. I'm just going to keep that in. Just
Person
kidding.
X, yes.
Okay, so his older brother, we were looking down in the basement and we saw him. There was a poster of Stevie Nicks on the wall. He took that down and he put it on the pool table, and then he pulled out like all the albums. He pulled out the first Fleetwood Mac album. He pulled out Rumors. He was pulling out Cream magazines.
I have a feeling where this is going.
He pulled out a wig and some Vaseline.
Now the thing was, okay, so pretty close. He doesn't put on a Fleetwood Mac song. He puts on Whenever I Call You Friend, which Kenny.
I love. Oh my god,
Kenny
I love that song so much with Kenny Loggins.
Okay, well, I'm about to spoil it for your eternity here. And he starts dancing around, and then the dance turns into like a masturbation dance. Like, seriously, I honestly think this delayed puberty for me 6 months, because I was so confused by this.
You're both watching this through a window?
And we're watching it, and we're just like, and then the song stopped, and we thought that was it, but he had it like on those like repeat. So I am almost certain the first time I saw another male, let's say, because he wasn't that much older than us, masturbate was Stevie Nicks.
This is the greatest story of all. I would like you to tell this story to like families at Christmas Eve, like gathered around a fire. That is how perfect this story is.
There's a visual to it, because the dance was like kind of like Stevie's twirling, which you didn't see guys do a lot, coupled with some other stuff. Oh, like seriously, like, okay, this took place either late 1980 or early 1981. It burned in my head. Burned.
And now it's burned in our heads.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it have been to Stop Dragging My Heart Around? That's the song I like
I
less.
think it would have been out by then, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess he was more Kenny than Petty.
I
I have not thought about that in a long time until it just came up.
I'm so glad we jogged that memory. And then later he became a serial killer.
And now he's House Representative.
Wasn't he a subject on My Favorite Murder last week?
We have travelers on our current engagement, and I did wish them while they were leaving, stay sexy and don't get murdered. And one guy got it, and the rest thought I was insane.
It's the phenomenon of murderinos, like, boggles my mind. Like, you look on Facebook groups, I'm always getting all these, like, things popping up, like, saying, like, oh, you should join this group of, like, mothering murderinos, or, like, cooking murderinos, or, like, all these, like, subsections of people doing things who are also big fans of My Favorite Murder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Steve, you introduced it to me, or was it vice versa? I'm trying to remember. I think it was you first.
Yeah, I think I told you about it. I don't know how I
You
got
definitely
into it,
told me about You Must Remember This first. That was definitely you first.
I love You
Yeah.
Must Remember This.
Yes, that was great. I think you definitely passed it on to me.
Yeah.
But My Favorite Murder, I think, I want to say that I heard about it from Throwing Shade.
Okay.
Randomly, where somebody had mentioned it, and I think it was just because they knew Karen Kilgariff, and they were like, oh, blah, 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 there's a show. And what was interesting, because I'm also a huge fan of Drunk History. This past, not this week, but last week, they did a Drunk History called, it was like Drunk Mysteries, where it was done in the style of Unsolved Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgia Harstark was on that episode, doing her drunk mystery. I think she did the D.B. Cooper. But what was funny is that one of the stories on that episode was the Circleville letter writer, which they actually talked about in late February at their Columbus Live show.
Right.
Georgia told that, or it was either Georgia or Karen told that story, which I was like, oh my god, I got to see this twice. I got to listen to it. It was so awesome. But anyway. I love the show. It's great.
Yeah. I wish we were as popular as them. Wouldn't that be great if that was our job? Oh my
Oh,
God.
wow.
God, I would love that playing.
We could talk about whatever for an hour and then introduce the podcast and then talk about Murphy.
I think my favorite intro where they just went off on was Georgia talking about senior night going to Disneyland.
Yes, that was so good.
That had me in stitches. And it was just like, I so would not have hung with you, but I would have regretted not hanging with you in high school, that kind of thing.
I just love the fact that every time they shout at their producer / editor, I'm just sort of like, they're calling my name. They're talking to me.
Oh.
Steven! Got it! Steven!
You could be their Steven.
I could,
Oh my God.
but he spells his with the V, I think. So I'm the PH one.
Oh. And also talking about Caleb, I do agree with Caleb, Wendy, that you did provide one of the absolute best moments in podcasting ever. Talking about the Punisher.
Well, I mean, not that I like to think that cuckolding is a thing, but I think that he really should have cucked that damn Micro. I think he should have gone to his house and fucked the hell out of his wife and made him watch it. That's what I think that show should have been about, and then it would have finally been interesting.
I'm going to give, this is your exact words. Fuck Microchip. Frank Castle should have banged his wife and made him watch. And he had a stupid beard. And yeah, I took those bananas because I do what I want.
Oh my God, I have people drawing me Gorilla Grodd stuff now. I need to make that my new logo. I need to make Grodd with 2 bananas my new logo.
Wendy, tell Steve what happened with the bananas.
Oh my God, do I want to know?
No, it's not like Stevie Nicks.
So I had injured myself. So I work this shitty job, at this shitty office where I massage people I massage stockbrokers at their desks while they're like dealing and doing like their financial shit all day. So like it's these like high tension dudes like clickety clacketing and yelling about whatever, buy, sell, whatever. And so I give them massages at their desks. And so I had injured myself. I had torn my calf muscle. I had torn something. And I was hobbling around on crutches that day, and I was going from desk to desk and giving people massages or whatever. And it's one of those places where they give you free spreads of food. There's just like enormous spreads of fucking food all day long. Like they have ping pong. It's one of those places. But everything is catered. Everything is perfect for these people. And so at the end of the day, I took 2 bananas and I put them in my bag. And the manager, saw me take the bananas, and she immediately wrote an email to my massage boss. And she said that I was acting suspiciously with the bananas. So I immediately got a phone call from her. I went in the next week. I got sat down and talked to about the bananas again. Like I had been disciplined about these 2 bananas 3 times. Meanwhile, I was on crutches. I was hobbling around like fucking Les Miserables or some shit.
Now I'm picturing you sneaking some bananas while singing "I Dreamed a Dream."
Little castle in the sky.
Some Keynesian waif, like, may I have a banana, sir?
Like crying and selling your hair while you've got a banana.
Pathetic. I was sad and pathetic and strung out on painkillers, and I just wanted a fucking banana.
It's all about the potassium.
And then when Wendy dies with the 2 bananas in her hand, she gets a bright light.
And
like there's like a chopper
floating up towards the sky with the bananas outstretched. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like a chopper with like a spotlight on me with my 2 bananas, calling down at me. Drop the bananas!
There's you holding the bananas during one day more.
Oh.
There's a local high school that's doing Les Miserables because they have a version it's a truncated version that they let the rights go out to.
Right, like Les Mis Junior or some shit. They do the blah 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 junior version.
I really want to see this. I'm really going to go to see it. Because I just think, like, like a 16-year-old Thenardier, I mean, it's gotta be gold. It has to be gold.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I have to say that the one that my high school put on was amazing. They even had a moving stage, and
And
were
when
able
was
to
this?
create the walls with the
When
that
was
turned
this?
1997.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
it was available that early?
Oh yeah, yeah. They did an
Wow.
amazing job. It was beautiful.
Oh, so I have a fascination with. So now I have never seen Cats. I've
Okay.
never seen Cats. But so leading up to Thanksgiving, I decided that every night I was going to watch a different year of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And so, like, on YouTube. And so I was watching them from, like, 1982, 1991, 1987. I was watching all these different years of the parade. And every single fucking year is a performance from Cats.
Wow.
So I have no idea. I have no idea what the deal is with Cats. But I've been able to piece it together from watching these parades.
You know what?
That's it.
I would love. Speaking of Cats, I would love to see that as a high school production.
Now and forever at the Winter Garden Theater and at Pocono Mountain High School.
Oh, God. I used to work for the Schubert organization, which was one of the principal landlords in the theater district. And I worked for Telecharge, and there were always tickets available for Cats. So if there was a dispute with somebody, well, how about we give you some free tickets to Cats? Now, this was like the early 90s when it was kind of waning. It was still like a big show on the weekends, but during the week you could get anything you wanted. And I ended up with comps for Cats, and like I actually was very moved the last time I saw it.
Well, I mean, it's a
I don't know why, because
Like,
it's so. Oh God.
So now, what I've gathered, it is a story of a bunch of cats, and they have to decide that one of them is allowed to, like, ascend to the next lifetime? Is
Uh-huh.
that it?
Yeah. And
That's so
and they
sad.
and in a sense they all plead their case through the different songs. It was just one of those things where it was like I was actually like moved by it that one night, and then I don't know why. But that shouldn't surprise
Well, no, Memories is a good song. Memories is a great song.
me.
I think, right?
I think.
I'll tell you the musical I secretly want to see. I want to see Waitress
Mhm.
because I love that movie.
Mhm.
But generally, I hate the idea of all these, like, the fucking, oh my god, in Chicago we have premiering the pre-Broadway production Pretty Woman, the musical.
Mhm.
And the music is written by fucking Bryan, Bryan Adams.
Uh-huh. He wasn't even part of the original soundtrack though, right?
Did he do the original
I don't think he
soundtrack?
did. But
I'd
did they
rather see
incorporate songs from that, like, King of Wishful Thinking and all that
That's
stuff?
Go West. Don't you dare confuse him with Go West.
No, but I'm saying, like, you do see that a lot. Like, the Ghost musical that Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics wrote had Unchained Melody in it. You do see that a lot with this stuff.
I'd rather see a Pretty Woman that's written with music written by Ryan Adams. I think that would be a little bit more interesting.
I
like that Taylor Swift album he did, that cover album of Taylor Swift's
Mhm.
1989. That was actually pretty good.
I am planning on seeing Head Over Heels when that hits Broadway, though. The Go-Go's musical. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I do like enough of the Go-Go's. And then, of course, I'm so baffled by Mamma Mia 2. Like, what is that? Is it just rearrangements of the ABBA hits? Like, they used every song. I don't understand.
But now with Cher.
You're doing the Spanish album now.
Well, now with
It's all
Cher.
gonna be in Spanish.
I mean, everybody should just see,
There's
should just see Chess. They should just see One Night in Bangkok. Yeah.
There's a couple of queers who are going to lose their shit when they hear Cher singing some of these songs. They're going to lose their shit. They're going to shit and they're going to fall back in the pile. I mean, they're going to lose their mind.
Shit.
And, God bless them. Seriously, because that's something they probably never thought they would experience.
They're gonna have that like classic
dance. Their masturbation dance was not.
Oh my god! Now I'm thinking of like, oh my god, because you could have done like Meatloaf with Cher with Dead Ringer for Love. Like that would have fit the time. Like, oh my god.
You know what always confused me about the If I Could Turn Back Time video? So now she was dating Richie Sambora at the time,
Mhm.
and her son is playing guitar in the video, and he's playing Richie Sambora's guitar. Now, can you imagine being that kid and having to play your mom's boyfriend's guitar in a video where she's like gyrating on a fucking on a fucking naval cruiser?
Well, did you ever see how Elijah Blue turned out? I honestly though, like I have the group that he was part of, Dead Z. Like, and they had like the worst luck. They had 2 unreleased albums.
Oh.
They had 2 debut albums that were both pulled from release right before it was supposed to happen, and it's not bad, you know. I mean, he comes from talented parents, you know.
Was his dad the Allman?
Yeah, he was the Allman. Yeah, the Allman.
Which one? The Allman.
The Allman.
Oh.
But I'm sorry, I'm coughing. Maybe that's a sign we should wrap up. Huh?
Well, I've had the greatest time in the world with you.
I could also say we've never had a post Wolves of the Week segment quite like this. So, Wendi, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. It always will be a pleasure. I treasure you as a person. I love talking to you. I love when I see that I am coming through, and it's Wendi Freeman. So, thank you so much for coming.
You are one of my eternal best friends, and the doors of Double Page Spread are always open to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to take you up on that because I want to do some other podcasts.
Yes, well, you and I still have a Van Halen comic to write.
I know. My God. And just so you can push and pimp, why don't you tell people about where they can find Double Page Spread, and also if you want to talk a little bit about C2E2 get-togethers.
Yes, yeah, well, the C2E2 get-togethers are still in flux right now. We're still trying to figure all that out. But definitely Double Page Spread. You can find me on Libsyn. You can find it on Google Play. You can find it every fine place where podcasts are distributed. So iTunes. So Double Page Spread, Wendi Freeman. So this week I have Marthias Wade is coming on to talk about his lady MMA comic Ready to Spar, and we go into a hilarious tangent about why threesomes don't work. Last week I was super honored. I went off on a whole
that
thing.
Really hasn't been my experience.
Okay. Last week I had Frank Severo on, who's a character actor from the 70s, he was in Godfather 2, he was in Goodfellas, he was in that Tony Danza Ape movie, so we got to talk about bananas. It was fantastic. So that was like one of the greatest highlights of anything ever. So yeah, Double Page Spread. Give it a listen.
Okay. 3 is a magic number. Yeah. Okay.
Be with a married couple because they're the fucking worst.
Folks, you didn't know what you were in for when you pressed play. Okay. All right, folks, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to listen to us, you can do so through iTunes and through Stitcher Radio. And if you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Billy Z.
And I'm Steve Morey.
You're going to hear Wolf and an Explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Wolf!
Whenever I call you friend, I begin to think I understand. Anywhere we are, you and I always been. Ever and ever, I see myself within your eyes, and that's all.